And so the Harvard-MIT consortium asked, since mine already existed online, asked if they could, since I'm at Harvard, could they include that in the offerings? And I said, sure. And I always wanted it to be free. My idea was a free global access. It was an educational experiment. But then the organization, the company that is running this for Harvard and MIT, offered it, offered to license it to California State University. And the professors there were worried, not specifically about my course only, but they were worried that this would establish a precedent, that to save money, the university would have their students watch online lectures, mine or those of other professors, and that their role would be reduced and their numbers would be reduced. And so to protest, instead of protesting to their university president, they made a public statement appealing to me, saying that I was complicit by allowing this to be made. Now, partly this was based on a confusion because and I told Harvard, I don't want this to be sold. My whole experiment was free and open access.
Sure.
And they should be free to use all of it or part of it or none of it, those professors, as they see fit. They shouldn't be pressured into using it. And so that was the
issue is basically the commercialization of it.
I think so. And I think there is a danger that the attempt to commercialize online learning will distract us from what I think is the great possibility and opportunity that new technology presents to education. For me, this is a way of showing that higher education can be a public good, not just a private privilege for those who can afford to pay $50,000 a year in tuition.
But when it's so popular, there will be a long queues, and many students, rich ones, want to jump the queues, like in the book.
All right, so you read the book.
So how you're going to solve that problem?
Well,
like the free concert, and just let in the excerpt on your book.
Right, the free
in New York some time ago, right?
What, when they were scalping tickets to see the lecture?
Yes.
Yes, but those were to come in and sit in to attend a live event, and so they were scalping. The tickets were free though, but the online course.
No problem yet.
Nobody. Well, I'm resisting. And I want to resist the attempt to commercialize. But there are many companies that will try to make money, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, provided it's done in a way that still preserves, at least for courses like mine. Mine is a course in moral and political philosophy. It's concerned with ethical questions. It's concerned with teaching students and other people how to think, to critically reflect on their moral and political convictions, to figure out what they believe and why, to become better citizens, to equip them for civic debate. That, I think, should be a free public good. Maybe there are other kinds of courses.
Obamacare as a hostage?
They're trying to, and I don't think that they will succeed in that. They may succeed. They already have succeeded in causing enormous disruption, and it will be much worse if they create a default on the debt, which could happen. There are some people who think that Obama as president has the constitutional authority to raise the debt limit without congressional approval, but this is controversial, and he himself has said he does not believe he has that authority. I'm not sure he's right about that, but the result is they've taken Obamacare hostage, and he, rightly I think, has said he's not going to negotiate under that kind of threat, but that he is willing to negotiate in general on the budget, on entitlement programs, Social Security, Medicare, and so on, but not under the threat of a default on the debt. And I think that's an appropriate position for him to take.
Professor, could we say that the market mechanisms fail in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis in the U.S.?
The market mechanisms
Did not work
well
in terms of restructuring the U.S. economy for a better future, like you said.
After the crisis. Well, I think market mechanisms by themselves cannot be expected to resolve the crisis.
Like a big correction, did not happen.
Well, it isn't only that, but there has to be government. One of the lessons of the financial crisis, I think, is there has to be responsible government regulation of the financial industry. Otherwise, left to its own, there will be bubbles, and then there will be crises. And that's the argument in favor of government stepping in to regulate the financial industry, which it has done, though I think not as fully as it should have.
Not enough.
Yes, because we still have too big to fail. We still have that problem. And the proper limits of markets. What's surprising is that this debate hasn't really happened. There was some discussion in many countries about regulatory reform. But for the most part, the regulatory reforms that were enacted.
Too big to fail, for example, in the U.S. What is your opinion?
Well, I think we have not solved the problem of too big to fail. So the regulatory reforms in the U.S. I think were too weak. And one of the reasons they were too weak is they have not solved the problem of too big to fail. There are still financial institutions and banks, even after the regulatory reform was enacted, that benefit from an implicit kind of guarantee that are still too big to fail. So I don't think we have solved that problem. Nor have we had a broader public debate about the proper role of markets.
Why the debate hasn't started in a big way in the U.S.?
That's a great question.
You have Occupy Wall Street, this and that around the country, and then it faded away.
It faded very quickly. There were actually two movements of protest that arose after the financial crisis. One was the Occupy movement on the left. The other was the Tea Party movement on the right. What's interesting is that though they were from opposite ends of the political spectrum, they did share a sense of deep frustration and resentment about the bailout, the taxpayer bailout of Wall Street. They drew different conclusions from that resentment and sense, but they were both arose from that sense of injustice.
So who is right and who is wrong in your opinion?
Well, first, as a political matter, as you mentioned, the Occupy movement has faded away. They were not well organized, and they did not establish themselves as an effective political movement. The Tea Party movement has not died away. They installed themselves within, they gained influence within the Republican Party, and they are in large part responsible for the government shutdown.
They're better organized, the Tea Party?
They are better organized, and they made a deliberate strategic decision to enter party politics, which the Occupy movement never did.
Which is more welfare-oriented, socialist on the left